Florida State football isn't dead. Last season, they hit rock bottom. They went 2-10, which was arguably the worst season in the history of this program. But that doesn't mean that Mike Norvell can't pick this program up and help them rise from the pits of the abyss. They could win 8 to 9 games this season. It's not unrealistic to see that happening when you look at the good coordinator hires that Mike Norvell made. You hire Tony White as your defensive coordinator. Everywhere that Tony White has been, he's produced a top 25 defense or better. You got Gus Malzahn as your offensive coordinator. You give Gus Malzahn athletic dual threat quarterback and some really good running backs, he's going to cook for you on offense. When he had those good years that he had at Auburn, when he had Nick Marshall, Trey Mason at running back, he went to the national championship. I'm not saying that Florida State has that kind of personnel this year on offense, but they're not too far away from that. Tommy Castellanos is the perfect style of quarterback that fits a Gus Malzahn scheme. You also have really good running backs. You could put me or you there at running back in a Gus Malzahn system, and we could produce, because for some reason, the guy just has the magic touch with running backs. Every running back that plays for Gus Malzahn always has elite production. You got Roydell Williams. You got Gavin Sawchuk, who 2 years ago in his final few games as a freshman at Oklahoma was going off. FSU is going to be a better coach team than what they were last year by a landslide. From a personnel standpoint, the changes that Florida State made to their approach with how they acquire talent out of the transfer portal, they're no longer getting guys solely based off potential, which is the mistake that they made last year. When you're evaluating guys off what they could be and you don't judge them for what they currently are, you're banking on your staff being able to help these guys reach their potential. You end up having the kind of season that Florida State did. Florida State realized why a bunch of their portal pickups from 2024 were unable to have a lot of production at their previous stops because they simply weren't that good. So what did Mike Norvell change with his transfer portal strategy this year? Instead of going for potential, he went for proven production. He's bringing in a bunch of offensive linemen that have several starts under their belt at their previous stops. You have guys that have proven production on the offensive line, guys that you know can at least be serviceable for you. Same thing at receiver. Squirrel White was really good at Tennessee, really good deep threat. Deuce Robinson could be Florida State's new Johnny Wilson. He can be that guy that you just throw the football up to if you're Tommy Castellanos, say F it, Deuce White somewhere down there, and he comes down with it. On defense, you got some really good pickups on that side of football as well. You got a guy or two that followed Tony White from Nebraska down to Tallahassee, and you got a bunch of young guys like KJ Kirkland that got a lot of playing time early into their careers that were really productive. And that's really huge for Florida State because the recruiting has not been that good as of late, mainly due to their inability to develop the guys that they get out of high school. So a guy like a KJ Kirkland is going to be really pivotal to the success that Florida State can have this year, because if he ends up having a really good year along with some of the other guys that they've gotten out of the high school ranks, this shows that Mike Norvell knows how to recruit and develop talent, which is what you got to have in order to be a stable program. Sometimes you got to take a few losses to take a few wins after. Sometimes you have to take 3 steps backwards to take 10 steps forward. And that's what last season was for Mike Norvell. Sometimes you win and sometimes you build character. 2024 was nothing but a character building moment for Mike Norvell and this Florida State program, because he realized you can't solely construct a team out of the transfer portal every single year. You got to have some continuity with your team. You got to have guys that are willing to die for that Seminoles logo. You got to have guys that when they put that uniform on, it means more than just a check. It means school pride. It means respect, because they take playing for Florida State personal. And you didn't see Florida State play with that attitude last year because they had a team full of a bunch of mercenaries. When you have guys that don't have the equity with your program, that guys that you recruited do, you're going to get the kind of results that Florida State did. You can't be portal or die like how FSU was last season. And that's what Mike Norvell realized, and that's what he cleaned up. Florida State this year isn't solely banking on a bunch of transfers working out. They're banking on guys that they got from the portal along with guys that they have recruited to work out now. The portal is good when you have a few areas of need that you have to address quickly if you want to be able to compete. It's not something that you solely rely on to build a team every single year. And that's why Florida State isn't dead. Because Mike Norvell, when he first took this FSU job, he had to rebuild it from the disastrous tenure of Willie Taggart. And eventually they went to 10 wins to winning the ACC, getting snubbed out of the playoffs. And they had that huge disastrous season in 2024. But I'm not going to judge Florida State solely based off last season. I'm going to base this program for what they do this season, which is why Florida State isn't dead, because they can still get the 8-9 wins, which would be a successful season considering they just went through the season from hell a year ago. And maybe they could be in the ACC championship. The ACC, you got Clemson, who we know is going to be there. Then you got everybody else. Florida State, why can't they make it to the ACC championship if their portal additions hit unlike last year? If their coordinator hires actually end up being home runs, which they are, I don't see Gus Malzahn and Tony White flaming out. Both of these guys have proven resumes along with the guys that FSU is bringing in from the portal. Florida State isn't dead, at least not quite yet. I got to see them have another bad season where they miss a bowl game to officially clear this program being dead and unrevivable unless they get a new head coach.